Okay guys, so often people make videos online about profits, how to spend your payouts, how to basically make loads of money. But what they don't cover is what happens if you're losing money. What happens if you're in some drawdown currently? This is something that we're all going to experience, or we all have experienced, and it has kind of made our trading quite difficult. Obviously, we don't want to lose, and we're not in trading to lose money. Otherwise, we might as well be gamblers, because why would you want to lose money? Why would you get into trading to lose money? You obviously wouldn't. So that is the main reason, obviously. So in today's video, I'm going to talk about how to handle the losses, how to kind of manage it psychologically, because a lot of people will be able to manage their losses, but they don't actually manage them properly. You might think you're managing them, but you're not actually doing it correctly. So that's what we're going to cover in today's video. So firstly, if you have full trust in your strategy and you have the data to back it up, I know I preach about this a lot, but I believe it is the most simple way to handle losses. If I have done 3 years of backtested data, I have journaled every single trade that I actually take, and then I lose 2 trades in a row or 3 trades in a row, it doesn't affect me in the slightest. The reason it doesn't affect me is because I know that historically I could lose 5 trades in a row, but over the year I'm still profitable. So the losing streaks are obviously going to happen, but by having the data, by having the trust in your strategy and the confidence to continue trading, that's what we really aspire to have. Because you might be a really good trader, but you might not be able to handle losses, then that can make you not a very good trader. It's as simple as that. So losing is obviously inevitable unless you have a 100% win rate, which is impossible. You are going to lose. So you need to learn how to handle the losses. First thing you should do after a loss, just accept it in your mind that maybe I didn't do something wrong here. Maybe it just didn't work out. So a lot of traders, they actually think that if they lose a trade, then they must have done something wrong. But this is not the case. Your strategy, if you've done your back testing, you know that 60% of the time it wins, for example. So out of 100 trades, you're going to win on average 60 of those 100 trades. So 40 of those 100 you could lose. Does it mean you've done something wrong in those trades? Absolutely not. You could do everything perfectly on all 100 trades, but statistically speaking, it's not going to work out every single time. And that's what you have to accept when you enter a position. A lot of people don't accept it because they only look at the outcome that that trade is going to be a win. But you have to know when you enter that trade, the stop loss is there. This is how much I'm going to risk. If the trade doesn't go perfectly, this is what I'm comfortable losing. And that's what you need to accept when you actually enter a trade. If you can't accept that, then you won't be a good trader in the long term. That kind of moves us on to our next point, in that losses shape your wins. So losing, it's inevitable. You're going to lose, like we just mentioned, but you need to use these losses to shape your wins. Losses can affect you a lot more than wins, in my opinion. Wins can obviously affect you, but that's for another video, and they can affect how you trade, but losses definitely affect your next decision. When you enter that trade, you didn't know that you were going to lose the trade, otherwise you wouldn't have entered it. So after the trade, when that trade is actually lost, what you do now is what is very important. You need to firstly journal that trade. You need to journal the trade. Look, was your entry as it should be? Was your exit as it should be? And then just see, did you actually make a mistake? Because maybe you did actually make a mistake and that is the reason for your loss. But by journaling it and realizing, okay, I did everything perfectly, this reinforces into your mind again, brings us back to the trust in your strategy. Well, I lost a trade, but it's not really the end of the world because I'm going to lose trades. I didn't do anything wrong. I just traded the strategy. I have trust in my strategy long term, so it doesn't matter. And I'm just going to move on to the next trade. That's the kind of mindset you need to go into it with. On the flip side of that, if you did make a mistake, write that down. I'm going to do a video on this as well, but the 3 strike principle, you should have that. Write down your mistakes. because you don't want to be making a mistake more than once. If you've made a mistake, you've seen that it's lost you a trade, you should never make that mistake again. If you are holding yourself accountable, if you have good discipline, that mistake should never happen again. Unless it's something that it's not exactly like clear cut, it can be quite difficult for a lot of people, but majority of mistakes people make can either be during the trade management, the risk management, or maybe the entry, whether it be FOMO, fear of entering. It could be a numerous different reasons that the trade didn't actually work for you, but you need to actually know why that is. So you need to know what caused you to do that. And if you don't know that, then it can just continue happening and you won't have any answer for the mistakes you're actually making. You can make the mistakes, but if you don't improve and never repeat them, then you're just going to continue spiraling downwards, and those mistakes will grow larger and larger as your account size grows, and it can lead to, account ending mistakes in the future, just by having a lack of discipline and accountability for your own trading. And this kind of brings us on to the next point as well. If you can't handle losses, you won't be able to handle wins. So let's say I enter a trade, and I'll bring it back to the days where I had, a Telegram group. I'd send out the trades I was taking, everything. Let's say I'd win 2 weeks in a row. So let's say we're up 6% profit, and then the next week we have one trade and it loses. A lot of traders will judge on that one loss, and they'll kind of they act more on that loss than they do their win. So the winners, they don't really care about them, but they focus on the losses. I feel like the traders that are really, really good, they focus more on their winners. Because if you won that trade, did you do everything perfectly? What did you do that you didn't do on the loss, maybe? Was it a difference in the entry, a difference in the setup? There's a lot of different things you can actually look at, but you need to be focused on improving and not being too caught up on the fact that you actually lost money on that trade. So if I lose a trade, I don't care about the money I lost. I don't care that I lost 1% of my account. I just care about, did I follow the rules? If yes, okay, move on to the next. That's all that I really think about when that actually happens. Because I know that 1% loss isn't going to matter over the next 3 years. Whereas, let's say I revenge trade after that, lose another 1%, or maybe up my risk to 2% and lose another 2%, it can quickly spiral to 2, 3, 4% lost as a result from my reaction, my emotional reaction to that first initial loss. And this brings us on to the last point as well, quite nicely, to not change your risk when you're in drawdown. I talk about this a lot, even in my mentorship, I speak about this. If you're up 3% in drawdown, a lot of people will then lower their risk to 0.5% or 0.25%. This is very, very bad. Let's say you then make a 1 to 3. Normally, you'd be back at break even. Whereas if you're risking 0.5%, you're still minus 1.5% in drawdown. Let's say you hit a winning streak after that, you win 2 trades, you're back at break even when you should actually be in 3% profit. So you've done all this risk to reward work, you've done your back testing, assuming that you're risking 1%, but the stats are completely invalid, they're completely wrong if you're not actually doing that live. If you're not actually risking the same risk amount the whole time, whether in drawdown or in profit, it doesn't matter. Risk the same amount, use fixed risk, and that will be good for you. I know it can be difficult for a lot of people with prop firm challenges, but you have to accept the fact that you could hit a losing streak as soon as you buy a prop firm challenge, and you have to be okay with that risk. So maybe you learned something in this video about losses, and I hope you did, and I'll catch you guys in the next one.